This video is made in partnership with AvBuyer, the home of all aircraft for sale worldwide and the latest actionable intelligence in print, digital, and online. Check out avbuyer.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ultimate Jet Guide Podcast Roundtable. This is where we're going to compare and discuss different private jets in a casual setting, like you were sitting with your friends at the FBO bar. Working title, Jet Life Libations. My name is Tom Lelio, and I'm your Ultimate Jet Guide. And with me today is David Fraizer of DF Jets. We'll be discussing the premieres. We also have Mikea Smith of JetAviva talking about Citation Jets, and Andrew Steward of SkyShare sharing why he loves the Phenom 100s. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast today. As you can tell, we're talking about, single pilot operation aircraft, right in that we'll say, $2-3 million budget, give or take, obviously depending on the year that we're going to be talking about. And we just wanted the opportunity to speak, why is this a good jet? Like, who is this jet good for, especially when you compare it to the other makes and models out there? Feel free, guys, to not only share why you love yours, but maybe why somebody else's jet may not be a good fit, or just kind of challenge one another a little bit. Think of it as a cage match, if you will. Not to get too aggressive, but hey, like, I heard the Phenoms, do this, or I heard, if you want an extra seat in the Phenom, it's $100,000, or I heard the premieres, don't have any parts support, and I could be down for 6 months waiting for a $100,000 windshield to come in. Like, I don't want to deal with that, or well, the Citation Jets, I have a soft spot for the CJs anyway, so I'm not going to say anything negative about them. But that's kind of the vibe for today. So I thank you guys for being here. And why don't we get started? I'll toss it over to Mikea. Ladies first. Can you just describe your jet kind of in general, like roughly, what is the story behind the CJ, rough time periods, maybe different makes and models, like what they kind of encompass, and just the overall performance profile, what they kind of do, and as well as the price point that we could be looking at when it comes to the Citation Jets?
Well, the Citation Jet was kind of reinvented from some of the earlier Cessna jets as an owner-pilot platform. It was a smaller platform. Obviously, in the back you have seating or club seating for 4. Some serial numbers have a belted lav, others don't, and then you have the side-facing seat as you walk into the side door there, plus pilot and co-pilot. The beauty of the CJ is it's still a single-pilot jet. It's very docile to operate. Its platform allows for easy transition if you were coming up through the ranks. I mean, say you started in a Skyhawk and then, you moved to a higher performance piston or a TTX or Bonanza or something of that nature, and then you were maybe even moved into a turboprop, or some people go right into the Citation Jets. It's a very, the original platform had the Honeywell system. There's a lot of upgrades that have happened to that platform now since the airplane was produced. Which the latest and greatest has been the G600 TXI system with the dual 750s and the G600. It's a beautiful panel now. It's able to be upgraded to that. And there were a few serial numbers that had the G1000 upgrade that had happened several years back. That was kind of a popular thing when that STC came out. So there are a few serial numbers that have been upgraded to the G1000. GFC 700. So that even made it more user-friendly from somebody that was learning in a smaller airplane on a Garmin platform. And they didn't have to relearn the avionics in an upgrade CJ. So they just had to learn the airframe, they learned to fly the airplane. And that was a lot different than just saying, oh, hey, I've got to relearn all of these avionics with different FMS and that sort of thing. So
And so in terms of pricing, where are the CJs kind of at? I mean, obviously we have the very early original 525s all the way through the brand new, CJ4 Gen 2s. Where's the kind of where do they range in terms of price?
So the average for the Citation Jets right now is about $1.6 million. Depending on how it's equipped, there's a large range of equipment on these airplanes, and also depending on if it's on TAP Blue or TAP Elite or an engine program. So that does make a difference. But if it is on an engine program, clean pedigree airplane, And it seems like most of these airplanes, I would say, are upgraded with the dual 750s or either 650, 750. Jet Tech STC, which allows for a WAS LPV approach. Those airplanes will bring 1.6, 1.7. Now, if it is equipped with a G1000, you're looking at north of $2 million.
And so if we had a budget up to $4 million, what level of CJ would we be going up to if we were in like the $4 or $5 million range?
If you're going to a $4 or $5 million, I mean, you could jump to even an M2. You could start seeing to go to CJ2, CJ2 Plus, although, you're kind of getting up into the larger aircraft that are more charter aircraft instead of the owner pilot aircraft.
Sure.
Although it's still single pilot, still completely capable of being an owner flown aircraft, but typically you see owners move into the straight Citation Jets.
Awesome.
Or the Warrens.
Cool. So I guess overall, like, what would you say would be the rallying cry of like CJs are the best because?
I think because they're very, I say, easy to maintain. I mean, the Textron service centers are very plentiful. It's not a huge issue to get parts if something is broken. The service is great. So, as far as the maintenance goes, it's, pretty simple. As far as operational ability and the way the airplane handles, it's very consistent as with any other Cessna product. So
right.
That's really why I like the Citation Jets.
For sure. Well, another great competitor to the CJ is kind of almost newer to the market would be Embraer's introduction of the Phenom. And so I'm kind of curious, Andrew, like hearing what the CJ has going for it, why do you think the Phenom can edge out a CJ if those are the two birds that I'm looking at possibly owning for myself?
I think in a way it's kind of like the perfect owner-pilot aircraft. And the reason I say that is, one, you have a Garmin cockpit, and I think that's a very capable platform. Like right off the bat, you have something that gives you synthetic vision and great situational awareness and ease of use. I have clients that, are moving up from maybe a TBM or a Pilatus, like an older TBM, or a PC-1245, and they want to get into a jet, and they'll look at a Premier or a CJ1, and they'll be immediately turned off by Proline 21 avionics. You're a owner pilot, and you have a trucking company, you're not a pro pilot, and the Proline 21's not meant for an owner pilot. So I think the Phenom is just really easy for your average guy, maybe 1,700 hours, has been flying for 15 years, to kind of graduate from a high-performance piston turboprop into a jet, and then have great Embraer support, really easy maintenance cycle, and a really nice cabin as well to go along with it. The Phenom's just kind of like a more modern, like the modern interpretation of what a light jet should be.
Mm-hmm. Where are they at price point wise? Because you do pay a premium for the Garmin, you do pay a premium for the cabin space. Where are they at price point wise?
For sure. So I'd say like if you were getting a Phenom 100, probably for something with programs, you're going to be at least upper ones minimum to right around maybe $3 million. And then with the 100Es, you're going to be, high twos, maybe one without programs, lower twos, up to about, let's say, I don't know, high threes, low fours. And then with the EVs, that's going to be $3 million and up to probably mid $4 millions. I know there was a really nice 2023 brand new delivery that just traded like somewhere like around 4.3, 4.4 not too long ago. I think that's kind of where they're at.
Now, with the EVs, though, are we trading off when you're at that $4 million price point? Now we're in the CJ2 territory. I mean, an EV versus a CJ2. I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but what's the performance profile on an EV in terms of how far does it go? How many people does it take with you versus a CJ2? Well, Andrew, what's an EV at in terms of how far it can go and how many people it can take?
Yeah, so with about 4 passengers, you're going to probably get an honest 1,000 nautical miles out of it, which is, the CJ2 is kind of in a different class of airplane. So I would say, if you're looking at a CJ2 Plus or a Phenom 100 EV and you don't mind an older airframe, go with the CJ2. But if you're looking for simplicity and a Garmin cockpit and something that might be just a little bit newer, $5 million for a brand new airplane or a less than 5-year-old airplane is going to be a great value for an owner pilot.
Yeah. And before we get to David, Mikea, do you want to speak to that at all in terms of, $4 million EV brand new versus a $4 million CJ2?
Well, it's really about, your mission, like where are you going, how many people you're carrying, do you want to make a fuel stop? And if you're okay with a little bit older airframe. I mean, some people want the latest and greatest avionics, especially for owner pilots. If they're hiring someone, which a lot of times the CJ2 is a popular charter airplane, so they're sitting in the back anyway. And if you're sitting in the back and you're hiring professionals, then, the avionics may not be such a big deal. So, it's gonna go a little bit farther. It's gonna do a little bit more, but it's a trade-off. I mean, what do you want? The newer? Do you want the older? You want newer avionics, better situational awareness, or are you okay with an older airframe that has a little bit more performance?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mikea. Like, personally speaking, when I was at SkyShare back when we were starting the program in 2017, we originally had the Phenom 100 as our aircraft. And after a few months of operating it, we realized, operating out of higher elevation runways in the West, that it's not a great option compared to a CJ2, especially in a charter capacity where you need higher density. So, I love the Phenom 100. I think it's an ideal platform if you're living on the coast or a low elevation area. But once you get kind of to maybe a more complicated mission profile and you're flying out of 4,000 foot elevation airports, CJ2 is just a different class and just a good step up for that kind of stuff.
Well, speaking of different classes and just kind of even a different era, let's bring in David. Talking about the premieres. David, talk to me about the premieres, because I feel like they're like a redheaded stepchild. Whenever I'm talking to somebody, I love slinging the citations. People are always like, well, how about a premiere? And I'm just like, I don't know. So tell us a little bit about the premieres, man, and what your experience has been.
Well, Tom, that's exactly why I get a phone call anytime someone asks you about it. But to go with the Premier, it's a light jet, obviously, that was built from 2001 to 2007. To me, varying opinions on it, but best in its class. Nothing can do what it can, especially with your cabin dimensions, which are wonderful. The Proline 21, I do have to argue the owner-operator standpoint because I would say the majority of my clients are owner-operators. They find it relatively easy. Yes, the citations are a bit easier to fly, I would say, but definitely is a great owner-operator aircraft. You have okay range in it, right? But especially if you're going to be that backseat guy, the Premier has a wonderful cabin at 5'4", which for your Falcon guys, right, it's probably laughable. But in the light jet world, you just don't see that. And me having at least flown in the cabin of both a CJ and a Premier, unfortunately not a Phenom yet, but considering the dimensions, it's probably a bit like the CJ. Yeah, the Premier is definitely, it makes you feel almost like you're getting into that mid-size, with it being a light jet. So.
And what do you see in terms of, I forget, all around, what's the speed on the Premiers?
So the speed is exactly 460 knots, so about 530 miles an hour. Yeah, it's super fast.
Because Mikea, where are you at in the CJs?
About 370, 380. So
that's 100 knots. The Premiers are 100 knots faster than the CJs. Mm-hmm. And same engines, right? We both had the FJ44s?
FJ44-2 ways on the Premier.
Okay. They're 1As on the CJ.
Yeah.
Okay. And how fast are the Phenoms going, Andrew?
EV is going to do long-range cruise at about 339 knots. So, it's going to get smoked by a Premier.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Jeez, the Premier's a freaking rocket, man. Jeez.
Yeah. Now, I can't trademark this because I did hear it from another office, but they call it the Roomy Rocket, and they call it that for a reason.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let me ask you guys this question. What questions or challenges might you have for someone else on the panel? So I know, David, you kind of mentioned a little bit about the Proline 21 versus the Garmin's. Maybe another way to put it is, what's some questions that you're getting from clients when they ask, hey, should I consider X, Y, and Z, and how do you respond to it? So for example, Mikea, if somebody was, talking to you and saying, hey, I'm looking about the Premiers, at roughly the same price point, I like the speed and I like the cabin, how would you position a CJ in front of someone to kind of offset, well, what about this? Even though it's got a bigger cabin, it's got more speed. What about this in terms of in favor of the CJ?
Well, if I was comparing against a Premier, I mean, my first thing would be value. Do you want something you're going to buy? Is it going to have resale value? Are you going to be able to offload it easy? What's your exit strategy? Now, if it's going to be an airplane you're going to keep for a while or that sort of thing, then, that might be one thing. But, if it's an airplane that you plan on moving up and it's going to be in the next year or two, what is your end goal? And are you wanting to move out of this thing quickly? Is it a stepping stone, or is it an end all be all?
What are you seeing, David, in the Premier market in terms of value? I didn't ask you about what they're running, and then in terms of being able to resell it. I mean, are we running out of parts? Are we running out of support? What's it look like right now in the Premier market?
Okay, so I'll start off with the price points. Right now, I currently have one that's on full programs, and we're doing an as-is almost about 1.6. Right, so you can find them anywhere from 1.55 all the way up into the 1As, where you're getting into, there's one out there for 2.75, right? Mm-hmm. And all while they're very comparable aircraft, you have the 1As that are just a little bit newer, and your likelihood of something going wrong, I guess, diminishes a little bit, but so there's with the price point. What was the next question?
I was just kind of wondering, how are you finding parts availability?
So our parts availability has gone down tremendously, but there are brokers like myself and a couple others out there, even some owner operators who are willing to help to keep them up and flying. Wichita Aerospace, to give them a good shout out. They're doing everything in their power, coming out with new STCs, to basically keep these planes in the air. But yeah, I mean, if you have a rough A and B inspection, you can be looking at, being down for some time.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, any questions for Mr. Phenom? I feel like Andrew's getting out of this easy.
Well, I think the Phenom's kind of like the perfect Goldilocks airplane. It's not going to perform like a Premier, but it has great support, a great cabin, and an easy platform to operate. And I think it just has a lot of. It's not going to be the sexiest airplane. It's not as fast as any of them, or has some other attributes where it doesn't perform as well. But I think it's just a no drama airplane, and that's valuable in today's market for a lot of pilots. They don't want to have to worry about sourcing parts or having to be super resourceful to go cannibalize parts off an out-of-service airplane. They just want something they can fire up and, go from Miami to the Hamptons and, have a relatively easy time.
Now, I would actually have one question to ask, and this isn't from a personal standpoint. I haven't had to deal with it personally myself, but I actually did have a gentleman get out of his Premier, went into a Phenom 100E, and he said he is having relatively the same support issues that he had on the Premier. And he's like, well, I should have just stayed in the Premier. Now, that's one out of, I don't know how many other people have done it, right? So you could have
he got busy.
Definitely got busy.
Else. towards the end of last year, I remember going through a deal that the deal was for a Phenom 100, and we were waiting on Embraer because they were shipping the parts, but the parts got shipped to the wrong spot, or the place that had the what it was is the warehouse that had the parts was moving locations. So, it went from one warehouse to another, and then from that warehouse, they had to ship it out to the end user. And I guess they were consolidating warehouses or something along those lines, where the supply chain for the parts was a little wonky towards the end of last year, I remember. Andrew, have you seen things kind of getting much better?
Yeah, and I think it's going to continue to get better too, especially as we kind of get back into a more balanced market. I think everyone was just thrown for a loop over the past 3 years from minimal, supply, out of control demand, and then all the supply chain issues that were associated with COVID. Now that we're, 2-3 years past that, I think we're going to enter maybe some more normalcy, like how things were in 2019. Not only from a market perspective, but also from OEM support and them kind of being able to catch their breath and better service their owners.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, I would love to just kind of go around one final time. We can go backwards, so we'll start with David. But just kind of, if you don't mind sharing with the audience, we're coming up on Q4. This is the time for a lot of people to decide to pull the trigger on a private jet for themselves. So in Q4, if they're considering a Premier, a CJ, or a Phenom, why should a buyer choose your particular platform? So what do you think, David?
Okay, so for the Premier, it doesn't matter whether you'll be up front flying the aircraft for yourself, or if you're in the back. It kind of suits both of those clients. If you're going to be in the back, like I had previously said, it almost feels like you're stepping up into that mid-sized jet world. I went from flying in a Premier to a Latitude a couple weeks ago.
Basically the same thing, right?
What's that? No.
It's basically the same cabin. Is that what you're saying?
Not quite, but it wasn't as drastic as having to climb. Right, I'm only 5'9", and I hate to do it, but to hate on the other two aircraft, getting into the CJ especially, I feel like I'm on my hands and knees. Whereas the Premier, you do have to duck down. Even me with being 5'9", no, I can't just stand straight up in it. But once you are seated, I mean, it just has the most luxurious feel I've certainly had in a light jet. I have not flown in the Phenom 100, but I have sat in it, and it is. I can certainly say I noticed a tremendous difference, especially with it being a 6-seater as compared to the 4. I know there are different configurations, but and look, performance numbers don't lie. If you're scared off about the parts issues, you can always resolve that. Textron is somewhat coming through for us with parts. I haven't found it to be as difficult, even though it still is. But I mean, numbers don't lie. I feel like the Premier, for the price point, you're getting exactly what you need.
Cool. Awesome. All right. There's one for the Premier. What do you think, Andrew? Why should we buy a Phenom 100 in Q4 compared to a Premier or a CJ?
Yeah, well, right now, I mean, I think, the name of the game is being able to get that transaction done by the end of the year. And one thing that the Phenoms have going for it is you have quite a bit of supply, like anywhere from 10% for the straight Phenom 100s to over almost 12% for a Phenom 100E right now.
Really?
That's, when I go into Q4 and I talk to my clients, yeah, we want to find the right airplane that does 80% of your mission. But at the same time, if bonus depreciation is the main driver of this transaction, let's get an airplane where we know that there's going to be supply and if we're going to be able to maybe negotiate a great price now that the market's tipping slightly towards a buyer's market, and get in there, get a quick deal done, get that one business flight in, and take advantage of that nice 80%.
Yeah, no, that's. I didn't realize. Wow, 24 Phenom 100s currently on the market. That's it's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the name of the game in Q4 is being able to get a deal done, because nothing's worse than thinking you're going to be able to get that deal done by the end of the year and have your client take advantage of bonus, and then something happens and all of a sudden they're pushed into the next year. And I've been in that position before. It sucks. So I'd say go for the sure thing.
Nice, awesome, very cool. All right, Mikea, what do you think? You're up last. Make the case for the CJs. Come on, I'm rooting for you.
Well, CJs kind of speak for themselves. I mean, they are notorious for holding their value. To Andrew's point, there are still quite a few of them on the market, even though it's only for the straight CJs around 4.7% of the fleet for sale. It's still 16 aircraft.
Yeah, it makes you wonder why so many Phenom 100 owners are trying to get rid of and dump their Phenom 100s, doesn't it?
Because they're moving into the Phenom 300. That's the graduation plan, baby.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
And the great thing about the CJs is that not only is the straight CJ a great first owner-operator light jet, they have the options to move on all the way up into the 4. If you want to keep going, you want to keep going faster, you want to keep calling more people, you have that option and you don't have to get a new type rating. Still single pilot, still 525. So you can keep moving up and not have to do that again. Just go to recurrent and do some differences training. So with the value holding the way that they are, the training being easy, I mean, of course, Cessna being a very user-friendly product, and as you go on up and get into the newer aircraft, I mean, they do have the G1000s, they do have the G3000s, like the latest M2 Gen 2 has the G3000. So if you're wanting to have that level of situational awareness and you want to increase your budget, I mean, the M2 is still right there in that 525 type series, so you don't have to get a new type rating for it.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. A lot of latitude of what direction you want to go into.
There's a lot of latitude in the CJs. Like, you can do a lot with them. Of course, they're easier to maintain. You can find parts, that sort of thing. So,
sure.
I think it's a great, especially if you're wanting to be on a progression, the CJ is a great one to start with.
No, I think you're right, and a shameless plug for those who don't have, for those of us that have champagne taste on a beer budget, I'll be over here with my 501s, under $1 million if you're looking for the legacies. So it's always a great option. But no, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I greatly do appreciate it, and we'll definitely reach out, and not reach out, but we'll definitely put where people can connect with you in the descriptions, and again, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
I forgot to say at the beginning, what do we all have drink wise today? I've got my Jet Life to the fullest Yeti that these just came in today, but I've got some tea, some herbal tea for the afternoon. So how about you, Andrew? What are you sipping on?
Dude, just a little agua out of the Owala. These are great. Now maybe next time we can do a comparison of Hydro Flask versus Yeti versus Owala water bottles. So
I've heard good things.
Keeping it healthy on a Tuesday.
I like it. And how about you, Mikea?
Well, since it's 108 in Texas right now, I got my big water jug. But those who know me well know that I also love my Coke Zero, and this is one of my bad habits. So, do you like my Coke Zero?
Is that the electrolytes?
This is my electrolytes.
Nice.
David, what did you bring to the Jet Life libations?
So for our less healthy option for today, we have some Woodford Reserve, because I thought we would all be drinking some alcohol. So if I sounded a little less educated, I have something to blame it on.
It's 10 o'clock in the morning right now, David. I'm sure it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
Just kidding, everybody. We are recording later in the day.